Arena is certainly something that we don't talk about a lot on this channel, and that's mainly because it's not something I particularly take part in very often. But now there's more than just me working on these videos means I can get outside expertise to come and educate us all. So the author of this video is a multi-glad on retail, having reached Gladiator in original Wrath of the Lich King and doing lots and lots of PvP on those servers we don't talk about. We're going to run through the best 2v2 comps that you can pick in Wrath of the Lich King, mainly in Phase 1. First up, the Affliction Warlock and the Resto Shaman. The combination of these two classes have been very strong in nearly every season, and the reason is their synergy. Non-diminishing returning CCs, strong kill pressure on nearly every CC setup, and the list goes on. Paired with the fact that Warlocks are traditionally difficult to lock down and kill, and offer enormous pill for their healer, it's just an outright very strong comp that you should consider if you're either a Warlock or a Shaman. Next up would be the Ret Paladin and anything else. Some popular choices to pair with a Ret Paladin though would be a Mage or a Disc Priest or a Feral Druid or an Enhancement Shaman or even a Rogue. And no, this is not a joke. Ret Paladins offer immense burst, almost endless utility, immunities, off hills, you name it. This class was built for PvP. In terms of partnership, the Paladin offers so much that most classes and specs can be paired with it. Some personal favourites include Ret and Feral, or even Ret and Enhancement Shaman comps, because both offer absurd amounts of burst and incredible off-hills for each other. Retribution DK, or even Retribution Warrior, is absolutely amazing as well, being so naturally bruiserish and tanky whilst offering high levels of burst and pressure. Alternatively, for safer games, Retribution and Healer works in nearly every scenario. Rets, all in all, are a good place to look for some twos. The Discipline Priest and the Feral Druid. Now, during actual Wrath of the Lich King, this comp reigned king, being one of the strongest twos comps for a long period of time and only being dethroned with the rise of Shadowmourne comps. Of course, it has its counter, but Disc Feral offers nearly every positive and negative spell in the book. Ferals with Predatory Strikes offer near endless CC and CC setups, as well as occasional heals and off hills. All this paired with insane burst. Disc then have pretty much everything else you'd need to succeed, being very tanky, assisting in kill pressure, and even down to the mana burns that they'll be using. This is a very defensive comp that has insane pressure when it decides to get a kill. The Shadow Priest and the Rogue is a comp that has carried over from TBC. However, it looks to get much better in Wrath of the Lich King. Shadow plays effectively like an off healer until needed to pressure and burst, and paired with Rogue's massive toolkit, offers some incredible burst and those kill windows. Both players in the team, however, need to be able to play extremely well, as they are susceptible to some of the other popular meta comps, and an extended game is the last thing that you're going to want. The Holy Paladin and Warrior. This composition starts the expansion middle of the pack, with the potential to do very well. By the end of the expansion, we expect this to be one of the most popular compositions people play. Holy Paladin is almost overloaded with PvP prowess in Wrath of the Lich King and looks to be almost unbeatable without purges. All of the utility that you can imagine, wings and bubbles to avoid nasty situations, sacred shields for continuous shielding, and beacon duplicating all heals on the Paladin's partners. Warriors are the reason the comp scales into the expansion, doing increasingly well with some of the later available weapons, namely Shadowmourne. And it also scales incredibly well with Armor Pen. Eventually, Warriors will become unstoppable with a Holy Paladin behind them, and this is likely to be a dominating team. The Holy Paladin and the Affliction Warlock, it's similar to the Affliction Warlock Resto Shaman, because this sees the Affliction Warlock as a ramping dot class paired with an overpowered healer. Holy Paladins offer more versus melee comps, with Resto Shaman likely being the winner for ranged or caster matchups, but the Resto Shaman would still be a very strong contender in melee comps. Ultimately, between pairing the Holy Paladin or the Resto Shaman with the Affliction Warlock, it really comes down to what you prefer, in terms of toolkit being added to your team. Discipline Priest Warrior is very similar to Holy Paladin Warrior. However, in my opinion, it doesn't equal in strength. However, it does match in aggression. This comp allows the warrior to be incredibly aggressive, and the priest becomes effectively an enabler whilst looking for mana burns. This comp expects shorter, burstier fights, which are extremely high-paced. Shadow Priest Frost Mage is oddly similar to the Shadow Priest Rogue comp, so obscene burst but requires lots of healing and peeling for each other, to set up their kill windows. The Frost Mage brings control much like the Rogue does, and the Shadow Priest really is your healer until it's time to call for that CC chain and go for the kill, in which case that's when they become the DPS. Discipline and Unholy DK. So Unholy DK is a class that hasn't been mentioned yet. It is a strong class naturally in arenas with high burst, consistent rot with diseases, and good sticking potential. However, with Gargoyle being such a strong part of the kill pressure, Unholy DKs fall short to shackles and CCs on the Gargoyle itself. Disc allowing the DK to be offensive early and playing for short, fast games help this become slightly more of an overwhelming fight. Elemental Shaman and Destruction Warlock. The burst of the Elemental and Destro has the potential to kill any team in an unbelievably fast time. Exceptionally good LE Destro comps will punish mistakes and capitalize very quickly. It falls short in terms of longer games due to the fact that they don't have a dedicated healer and rely on the LE being able to heal themselves before they go out of mana. They offer a lot of CC and share a lot of the utility strengths as Resto Shaman Affliction. Retribution Hunter is a comp you'll very often see in 3s with a healer. It shares the same strengths in 2s with Ret allowing Hunters to be almost uncontested and freely roam with their Trinket and Master's Call and other self-pill. The burst between the two is absurd, and the instant cast Mortal Strike from the Hunter covers one of the few shortfalls in the Ret's toolkit. Interestingly enough, most classes and specs, especially at the start of the expansion, will be playable in 2s. Most compositions can be made strong by player skill over class and spec, but some honourable mentions of classes that aren't in the list. Resto Druids are still an exceptional healer that allows a low-risk playstyle. As long as you have the hots, you're likely to be fine. Rogues and similarly Rets could be paired with a Resto Druid, as they can be paired with most other classes and specs and do very well. The Balanced Druid can take the place of the Elemental Shaman in certain comps for a slightly different approach. So if you pair the Balanced Druid with a Destro Warlock, it would be seen as a weaker version but still offers the ability to delete someone from the game very quickly. And remember, Alchem Frenzy allows you to turn and fire during its uptime if being focused. Fury Warrior is not a high one on my list, ultimately weaker than its arms counterpart in PvP. However, I'm sure paired with a Ret or a Holy Paladin could have some success. Frost DK is bursty by nature and has slows to match. Again, another DPS that can be paired well with Ret Paladins to cut through teams. When it comes to Hunters, Marksman is likely to be the meta Hunter spec due to the Mortal Strike instant effect on aim shot, the strength and dispel resistance of Viper Sting, and silence on top of that. Beast Mastery still has some strong bursts, but nowhere near the global potential of TBC. Fire Mage, due to the low levels of crit available at the start of the expansion, is not a spec we're likely to see much of. In PvP, it typically falls short of its Frost counterpart unless the games are unbelievably fast. Enhancement Shaman is a bit of an overlooked class that shares a lot of the strengths of the Ret Paladin without being as good as they are. Enhancement has good burst with lots of off heals, a ranged interrupt on a short cooldown to make caster teams absolutely hate you, your totems to provide lots of utility. Retribution and Enhancement together, once again, is a strong combination that can delete teams and sustain off heals. And really, as an enhancement, if you was paired with a Ret just for extra off heals and pure burst, you can delete teams very, very quickly. I'd say that's probably the first ever PvP video to hit the channel, so if you liked it, be sure to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes, everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name, and you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.